Welcome to VidZ. I'm Dr. Ted Noel, and I'm here with today's podcast. Our subject today is the filibuster. All of us hear about it in the news, but very few people are really aware of what's going on. And today's subject has to do with keeping the government open rather than a health-related topic, but because it will also bear on health-related topics later on, we're going to cover it. Now, all big freedom-oriented bills could die on the altar of the filibuster if we don't understand what to do about it. Now, the stereotype for filibuster comes from Jimmy Stewart's 1939 movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And there he engages in a very long filibuster. The most recent actual filibusters were an 18-hour filibuster by Rand Paul, where he was attacking Obama for not being clear that he would not use drones against American citizens, and then a 21-hour long filibuster by Ted Cruz about Obamacare. Now, as we note, historically, Rand Paul got the president to say that he would not use drones against American citizens in the U.S. Ted Cruz got nothing out of his except publicity. But we constantly hear that we have to get 60 votes to do anything in the Senate. Where does this really come from? Now, filibusters have been around for as long as legislative bodies have been around. I mean, even going all the way back to the Roman Senate. The basic idea of a filibuster is that you talk a bill to death. Typically, what will happen is the people talking eventually get tired, and then the others vote and the bill passes. But, for example, in 1846, a bunch of Southern senators talked for a full month against a bill that would allow a purchase of land from Mexico and included a provision that said we could not have slavery in the states that came from that. Well, the Southerners were slaveholding states. They didn't like that. They talked, and finally, after a month, the Northerners gave up and said, okay, we'll take that provision out. Then the bill passed and everything was cool. So the Southerners got something out of the deal. But they talked for a full month. Now, this kind of tactic has continued, and in March of 1917, there were 12 senators who opposed a bill to arm merchant ships against German submarines in World War I. And ultimately, the majority changed the rules of the Senate. They added what's called Rule 22, which allows the Senate to vote to shut off debate. And this is a key point, because the filibuster is not blocking a bill by saying you can't pass it without a certain number of votes. What it's saying is you can't vote on it unless there is a vote to shut off debate. And the cloture rule in 1917 said that you had to have 2/3 vote of the Senate to shut off debate. Now, that was changed in 1975 from 2/3 to 3/5, which gives us the number that you hear. 2/3 of the senators in our current Senate, which has 100 senators, would be 67 votes. That's a pretty high bar. That's the number of votes required to ratify a treaty. And that is constitutional. But the cloture rule is a rule in the Senate. It's not in any law, and it's not in the Constitution. 3/5 majority is 60 votes. That's the number you're used to hearing. Now, the key point here is that 60 votes, once again, are not needed to pass a bill. All you need to pass a bill is a simple majority. So that's 50 votes plus a vice president voting as a tiebreaker, and that's how Education Secretary Betsy DeVos was confirmed. We had a 50-50 tie. He cast the tiebreaker. She's now the Education Secretary. So, just to recap, the filibuster is a way to prevent a vote. When a vote happens, it's still a majority vote. So what happens now? We'll talk about that after the break.
Hi, I'm TV talk show host, political analyst, and national spokesman Josh Bernstein. I want to tell you guys about an amazing group known as the Association of Mature American Citizens, or AMAC for short. AMAC is the conservative alternative to AARP. We are a seniors-based organization for seniors 50 years of age and older. We have all the same types of products and services an AARP would have. The only difference is, when we lobby on behalf of our members and Congress, it is to give more power, more control, and more freedom to seniors and their healthcare decisions. So please check us out at www.amac.us. Again, that is amac.us, or call toll-free 888-262-2006. Again, 888-262-2006. Tell them that you heard Josh Bernstein, their national spokesman, talking about them anytime you see this video, and we will give you a free membership. That's right, folks, a free membership just for mentioning this video. Call us at 888-262-2006 or find us on the web at amac.us.
If Senate Minority Leader Schumer says Dems will filibuster, Majority Leader McConnell just puts the bill on a second calendar. Let me put that again. The minority leader can come up to the majority leader and say, we're going to filibuster. And if the majority leader, that's Mitch McConnell, doesn't have 8 Democrats to help him in our current situation, then he just surrenders and puts the bill on a second calendar, and it never sees the light of day. That's a preemptive surrender. That's not majority rule. That is minority rule. The tail has wagged the dog. Once again, no part of this has anything to do with the Constitution. All it says in the Constitution is the Senate will make its own rules. And this is a Senate rule. And just as the Senate got rid of the filibuster for Supreme Court nominees, the so-called nuclear option, it could just as easily get rid of the filibuster for legislative actions. Now, senators hang on to it because they like to have the ability to block things when they're in the minority. But still, it's a rule. It's not a law, and it's not the Constitution. Now, let's suppose we do something different. Let's suppose Schumer comes to McConnell and says, we're going to filibuster Trump's tax reform bill, or we're going to filibuster this continuing resolution to keep the government open because it doesn't fund Planned Parenthood, or because it's got money to fund building the wall. What would happen if Mitch McConnell simply said, okay, you go ahead, here's a microphone? Now Chuck Schumer is in the position of put up or shut up. He either has to get his people on the floor of the Senate and start talking, and they might talk about their grandmother's recipe for pecan pie, or how your father did something clearing a field of rocks, or anything. They could read the New York telephone book. That's been done. They could do anything, but what they're doing is they're talking, because the Senate rule says unlimited debate. Well, not quite, but it's pretty close to that. And basically what they would do is they would talk. Well, C-SPAN has cameras in the Senate, and we would see them talking about all sorts of things having nothing to do with the bill in question. They just keep going, and while they're going, Senator McConnell, Senator Rand Paul, Senator Mike Lee, run the list. They walk out to the steps of the Senate, get in front of the cameras, and say, we are trying to do the people's business, we're trying to keep the government open, and the Democrats are standing there blocking progress. They are the party of no, and all anybody has to do is look at the cameras in the Senate and go, yeah, they're the party of no. What does this do? It completely changes the optics of what's going on. The issue here is not who is trying to move things forward. It's who's blocking things. And the media have been in the tank completely for the Democrats for so many years that they've gotten away with saying the Republicans are the party of no. We know that when the Democrats were in the majority in the Senate and the Republicans were in the majority in the House, that over 100 bills were passed by the House, sent to the Senate, and died the moment they arrived because Harry Reid, who was the Senate Majority Leader, wouldn't ever bring them up for a vote. They just died. And so the media were able to say the Republicans are opposing everything. They're opposing. And they didn't have to tell a story of how Harry Reid was the one opposing. But now the optics change. You have the Democrats are standing there visibly opposing keeping the government open. And the moment that becomes clear, the Democrats lose their ability to function as a minority party. They suddenly become the not-so-loyal opposition. They are simply opposers. They take on the same visual as the ski-masked protesters who are beating up peaceful Trump supporters at rallies. And people don't like that. Democrats would put themselves in a serious hole if Mitch McConnell would simply hand Chuck Schumer the microphone and say, enjoy yourself. This would be a huge change if the Democrats are 24 hours a day gumming up the works. Ultimately, they're going to cave because they don't like the optics. I don't think they're going to keep this going because every time they threaten a filibuster, they get the microphone handed to them, and they are the party of no. They are so much the party of no that even their supporters will realize all they're doing is obstructing. The alternative is that the Republicans will say, enough is enough. Are you going to keep doing this forever? Fine, we're changing the rules for cloture. We have to have 51 votes for cloture. We'll let you talk for a while, but then after, let's say, 2 days of talking, the rule is now 51 votes for cloture, and we will close off debate. We will get votes, and we will get things done. Notice again, this does not change the law. It just denies the Democratic minority the ability to screw things up just because they want to. Bills in Congress have always passed on simple majorities. That's in the Constitution. They always pass on simple majority. It has never been anything different. The filibuster can exist, but it can be shut down when the majority has had enough baloney from the minority. Now, at this point, we can say Obamacare repeal and other freedom-oriented bills will be able to be passed in good order. We say you get 2 days worth of filibuster, and that's all you get. Then cloture's 51 votes. During the first 2 days, we have 60 vote majority. I mean, that's just one possibility of how to do it. But ultimately, we shut you down at 2 days. This is something we want. We're going to get a vote. You can go rattle around for 2 days, then we shut it down. There's nothing undemocratic about this. It gets rid of using the filibuster as an undemocratic rule of that's used for extortion. Remember, what the filibuster is doing is allowing the people who lost the last election to extort the people who won the last election. And what it does is it restores the Senate to its constitutional role. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. Thanks for listening.